Welcome to WTF, West Bank Talks Finance, the podcast that turns WTF moments into knowledge that you can use to make informed financial decisions. Subscribe to get notifications when we release new episodes. Hi, I'm Lebo Khawaketse and I look after marketing and comms for West Bank. And in studio, I've got with me Shiny Gobieza, who is the COO for NAMSA, the Automotive Council. Welcome, Shiny.
Thank you, Levo.
All good. And I've got Jade Guzi, who is the roving marketer at West Bank. Jade, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Lebu. How are you?
All good. Thanks for joining us. Looking pretty, ladies.
Thank you.
Hey?
Always.
Yeah, no, thank you. We are going to just really chat about those tips and things to consider when choosing the best car for your needs. Now, Shiny, where do we start? You know, I'm excited. I'm about to buy a car. What is the first thing that you would tell me? What do I need to do? What do I need to consider?
I think the best way to calm your nerves when you're excited about buying a car is make sure that you can afford it. So the first thing you need to look at is what is it that I can afford to buy? And then start choosing around, do I want a big car? Do I want a small car? How far do I drive? Do I want it for off-road? Am I an excited person? What are my hobbies? And once you've decided your price bracket, you are able to then take a conscious decision to say, okay, I can't afford a luxury car. I actually need a day-to-day car. And this is who I am today and this is what I'm going to buy.
Great. So you must be able to afford this car, which is a key thing. And you speak about other things around your lifestyle, your personal lifestyle. Jade, do you maybe want to add to that?
Yes, I do. I think you have to be realistic about your budget as well. You know, what you make and what you earn every single month versus what you actually spend your money on. And you have to be meticulous about it so that you don't go and price higher than what you actually can afford.
Shiny, do you want to maybe touch on the needs? Because you started talking about, do I need a big car? Do I need a small car? What are these needs pertaining to considerations when it comes to buying the best car for me?
I'll take me as an example. My lifestyle includes gym. I drive far all the time. I always say quality of life, you must live where you are happy. So I drive minimum 70 Ks a day. So I need a car that's comfortable, reliable. I spend a lot of time waking up in the morning, go to the gym, go to work, go see some of our partners and our customers. So I need a car that's got longevity. I'm a big girl. I'm tall. So I can't drive a small car. I need a big car. So I'll choose an SUV.
Okay.
I also love driving 2 to 3 hours away for holidays. I've got 2 kids. I've got a lovely husband. All of them are tall, so I need a car that can fit all 4 of us.
Sure.
So choosing a car for your lifestyle and also within your pocket, that's the first thing you look at. You might want a small Porsche car. I mean, I'm sure everybody wants to own a Porsche.
I know I do.
Everybody wants to own a Porsche. But realistically, for your day-to-day, you are a mom, you drop off kids, you are single. I need a car that's efficient on fuel. So it also depends how big your engine should be. I don't want to be pouring petrol every 2 to 3 weeks because I drive long distances. So you need to consider realistically what you need for your lifestyle, the kind of life you live and those that are around you, if you've got those.
Interesting. So there's a great practicality element that, you know, of course, somebody who's considering to buy a car needs to account. So list all of these things and be mindful. Because, of course, Jade, we do know that it is on average, 3 to 5 year decision once you get onto that car. Now, you spoke about expenses. You know, be very honest and clear about expenses. Where would most people trip up? Or not be honest, as an example, and what would the consequence of that be?
So I think a lot of people tend to not declare stuff like policies.
Okay.
And those are things that add to your expenses. They also tend to not declare fully what they spend on household expenses, for instance, or groceries.
Or school fees, maybe?
Or school fees, perhaps. And I think that it's very important to factor in every single thing that comes into your budget.
I mean, as a roving marketer, you look at expenses and income, but you work with what the person gives you to make a decision, right? So
That
the
is
impact
correct.
of not disclosing can lead to a wrong decision, essentially.
Absolutely. And it can lead to you either making a bad decision when it comes to your affordability, and 3, 5, 7 months down the line, you end up not being able to pay the vehicle. And that causes obviously stress, and it does also cause issues with falling behind on your payments.
Okay. You spoke earlier on, Shiny, about not wanting to pour petrol every week. And I think there's an important point there that you're making. Yes, there's the budget in terms of affordability, there's the practicality in terms of your lifestyle, but also once you have this car, there's running costs, right? Do you maybe want to talk to us about the day-to-day running of the car?
So when you're buying a car, it's not just about the installment. And I think also consumers are shy to ask the right questions. So technically, if you ask for specifications of a car, even when they explain to you, you don't understand. So I think you need to be clear on what you want to get out of the questions. For an example, I have 5,000 rands a month for fuel. Average, I'm on 300 kilometers. Can this car last me for a month? That's a very simple way of asking a question, because people will say, no, but it's a 2-liter engine. What is that? A lot of consumers don't understand it. So if you ask the right questions right from the beginning, so that you understand from a total ownership and an affordability, there's a lot of options.
Now, Jade, you earlier on, of course, spoke about we work with the information that the customer gives us. If you don't give us the right information, we won't be able to, give you the right decision. What are the other things that you take into account when I come and apply for a car? Is there certain things that I need to be aware of? The fact that I've owned 15 cars before, does that have a factor? The fact that I've got 18 houses, what are the key things that you look at when I apply for a car?
So essentially, the things that are looked at is, as a consumer, we would want you, again, back to the affordability, to be able to afford it. So if you do own 15 houses and they are actually bonded, we have to know about that. If you do own 15 cars, it does affect your total exposure. And then your finance application then falls into a different type of risk, where we assess everything in each and every vehicle that you actually own. So in addition to that, I think the type of car you're buying as well, price points of cars take you to a certain type of exposure as well. A 300,000 rand car versus a 1.2 million rand car, the risk is very different.
And what if I want this car? What if I mean, I'm a cool kid, it's my first car. Are you going to tell me if you've looked at your papers and I can't afford it? Are you going to tell me that I can't afford it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it would be reckless lending if we lend you something and you are not able to afford it.
Reckless
Obviously,
lending.
factoring in that there's insurance as well that needs to come with that, and the fuel cost too. So yes, we do factor everything into consideration.
You speak about reckless lending. On whose side?
So it would be reckless lending on the part of the bank,
Okay.
and it does cause problems in the end because you cannot keep up with the repayments, and we have to end up in a scenario where we have to go a legal route for the car.
Sure. So it is our responsibility as lenders, as banks, as financiers, to make sure that we get customers into cars that they afford.
Correct.
Essentially. But then on the other side of the coin, there are responsible buyers. What would a responsible buyer look like?
So a responsible buyer, in my opinion, is somebody who maintains their monthly repayments, and not only on vehicle finance, but on everything else that you've purchased.
Okay.
So it again boils down to affordability and how you live your life. You can't have a different lifestyle to what you think you actually can afford. So again, affordability is the key point, and you keeping up with your monthly repayments on everything because we look at it a history, an ITC
I was
payment
about to
profile
ask,
history.
yeah.
So we look at that and we gauge based on that whether you are responsible or not.
Interesting. Let's talk about accessories. I want to pimp my ride. I want to look cool. What are the kinds of accessories that actually, let's say, add value? And what are the kinds of accessories that maybe don't add value? How would you advise me if I want to pimp my ride, add sound, drop it, add rims, any advice?
Yeah, I think it depends on the vehicle that you're buying.
Okay.
And what you're going to be using it for. So, I mean, an SUV versus an LDV, the extras are very different. But I mean, stuff like sunroof, for instance, that's a value add. There are different types of rims that you can get.
Okay.
There are black rims. There are metallic rims, and it really just has to suit your personality. And the car has to look and feel good for what you want. And I mean, there are extras like heating and cooling of seats, but again, affordability is the main thing. You just have to have that in the back of your mind when you make a decision to add any kind of accessory, because some accessories are not that pricey, but others are quite pricey depending on what you want and how you want your car to look and feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Shiny. You spoke about the fact that you have a family, you do a lot of trips, you gym, and. So do you drive a big car or a small car? You don't have to mention a brand,
I must say, because I work for the Automotive Business Council, the privilege I have is to drive different brands.
Okay.
Before I worked for the industry, cars were not my thing, right? I'm a bike girl.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm rough, but I love a smooth bike.
Okay.
So I like something that also moves fast. And South Africa, again, is one of the unique markets where if you want to buy a bike, you can actually get a luxury bike. And the options are so many. I think we're sitting at 17 or 18 types of bikes now,
Sure.
and they're still coming.
Sure.
Also patterns of buyers, females like buggies and SUVs.
Okay.
I'm a sedan girl for a long time. I've been driving sedans.
Yeah.
I've tried a hatchback recently. I'm back on an SUV again. But again, I think the privilege of driving different cars, what I've also noticed is that choosing the most expensive car doesn't necessarily mean you get the best value. Also, there's a lot of extras that you put on your vehicle that you never use.
Sure.
For an example, South Africans love buying buggies, but people don't go for off-road.
Yeah.
And within the buggy choices in the model that you're buying, you can choose to buy a cheaper one so that you can afford it. But consumers tend to go for the most expensive one because the most expensive one is the most coolest one.
But they don't necessarily use all those
You
features.
don't need it.
Yes.
And I mean, according to Jade, you are stuck with that cost because it increases the cost of the actual car.
You don't need it. And Lebu, I think also on the extras, there are extras that you can take while you're buying the car.
Okay.
There are those that you can fit post, so you can save for. So you also must ask advice around,
I like that.
what is it that I can buy now? Can I fit this one post my purchase, or do I have to buy it now because it needs to be factory fitted? So you also need to ask those questions so that you don't find yourself wanting a bigger installment rather than just buy standard. And as you move with your car, and if you're taking an outright purchase, you're going to own it for the next 3 to 5 years, then take your time. What's
Take
the
your
rush?
time. Save for that extra because, Jade, if you don't save for that extra, you add it to the cost of the vehicle. There's interest that you pay
That is
on
correct.
that. Is that correct?
And you're stuck with that amount.
And you're
every
stuck
single
with that
month.
amount every single month. A key consideration for buyers out there.
Absolutely.
Sure. And Jade, maybe talk us through the decisions that you made before buying the car that you have now.
Yeah.
Specifically, we've talked a lot about a lot of things, budget, lifestyle, choices, practicality versus luxury, cool accessories. What is the process that you went through when you got your current car?
Look, so I been driving a specific brand
Okay.
So when I had my first car, it was this particular brand, and it just treated me well, in all honesty.
Okay.
So I just kind of upgraded to same brand, but just a different car, and I just also wanted an SUV because I'm also a tall girl, and you don't want to be in a tiny little car, literally stuck and crammed. So I think that for me it was just about comfort with my height, and also just ensuring that I've got an automatic car because I do a lot of driving as well. My job
Your job, for
requires me
sure.
to drive, so I drive a lot, and it was really just about comfort and knowing this brand. Really just knowing that it's a good brand, and that was my decision maker. It wasn't really, I didn't need the bells and the whistles because of the fact that I use the car to drive so much.
Sure.
Yeah, I put a lot of mileage on my car.
I like that layer, so over and above my lifestyle,
Yes.
if the certain brand that I've loved since I was young
Yes.
provides all of these things, then I'll stick to the brand,
Yes.
essentially.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Yes.
One question to each of you.
Yeah.
So you are in a lift with somebody who's buying their car for the first time, and you've got a minute. 1 minute, one piece of advice that you would give of all the things that we've spoken about. Jade, what is that one piece of advice that you would give to that person in 1 minute?
I think we can't stress this enough. Affordability, affordability, affordability.
I
Don't
knew.
get yourself into trouble.
Okay.
Just make sure that you can afford the car. And that's it. I would literally just say that.
Okay.
It wouldn't even take a minute. I'd literally just say affordability.
You are very passionate about affordability.
No, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to afford that
And I
car.
think, of course, in your space, you see how a lot of people fall into traps and they end up not affording their cars.
Absolutely. And it's sad to have to get to a point where you see somebody not being able to afford that vehicle. So affordability is key.
Okay. And Shiny, what would your advice be?
Ask the questions. Understand what you can afford. Is this the right car? Do not rush. South Africa also has a lot of options. If you look at our sales statistics label, which we release every month, you can see the bracket of cars around 350, 500,000. People are buying a lot of those cars, and those cars are comfortable. So take your time.
Okay, interesting. Great chat, ladies. So there you have it, our consumers and our listeners there at home. When you are choosing the best car for your needs, take your time. That's the first thing. Take your time, do your research. There are a lot of options. As Shiny says, in South Africa, we've got an oyster of options. We've got choices. So take your time. Budget and affordability becomes a key component because remember, when you've bought that car, you still have to pour petrol. There's insurance, there's maintenance, there's servicing. There's all these other factors that you need to take into account. Now, most importantly, once you've got that car, you have to keep it running, but it also has to suit your lifestyle. Do you want a big car? Do you want a small car? Do you have a family? Do you drive a lot, like Jade in her job? Or do you travel a lot, like Shiny? So all those things are important to consider when buying the best car for your needs. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for listening. We hope that you found that useful. Now go and subscribe to be notified when our next informative episode is available.